So Astazora and I have this trading hall set up on our Patreon server, and it's got this villager selector here, and I've always had a problem with it. When I place a workstation down, he will not take a job right away, and I couldn't figure out why that was. It may be fairly obvious to some of you why this is. It was not obvious to me, and I had to dig through the code to figure it out, and I finally figured out exactly why he is not taking this job right now and how to fix it. So the problem is actually right over here, and you can actually see, because he's not in a minecart, you can see that he's focused on it. He's actually trying to pathfind to this barrel, even though he can't. And while he's trying to do that, he's not even scanning to see if there are any other workstations. He is single-mindedly focused on this barrel. And then if I remove it, he will immediately check again, and he will realize there's a station right in front of him, and he'll pick that. So you see, I knew what all the pieces were, but I didn't know exactly how they fit together. And what I thought, without even realizing that I thought this, was that when you put down a workstation, it would have any unemployed villagers in the nearby area scan to see if it's a valid target for them. And that actually does not happen at all. Scanning for new workstations is driven entirely by the villager. When I place a new workstation down, all that happens is it gets added to a list of points of interest on the server. It's up to the villager to actually find this point of interest. And if he's unemployed, he will scan about every 5 seconds to see if there are any unoccupied workstations that he thinks he can path to. Once he's done that, he will attempt to pathfind to it. And importantly, when he's doing that, he will stop scanning. There are a couple of events that will break the cycle of him trying to pathfind to this barrel over here. As we saw before, one of those was if I break the actual barrel that he's targeting. Not some other barrel. It's got to be specifically the barrel that he's looking at. And then if I break that, he will immediately start scanning again. The other event is there are certain day events that will break his pathfinding. I'm not 100% sure on this because it's hard to find in the code, but my suspicion is that things like his work start time, trying to find a meeting hall, or trying to find a bed will break his pathfinding, and then he'll do a rescan and check and see if that's now the best workstation. It's not anymore. There's a closer one, and he will choose that one instead. So the only real solution is to confine the area around the villager selector to block any pathfinding he might have to any workstations that are outside. Now, I did know that before, and you've probably heard other people say it as well, but I never really understood how important it was because, one, I never really understood how everything worked, and also because it never seemed to work for me, and that's because I would always forget stupid things like forgetting that barrels are workstations and you can't use them for storage inside your villager selector. It's unfortunate. They're great storage. You can't use them inside of a villager selector. Or I would just leave other workstations lying around and not really think about it. Or I would fail to block pathfinding adequately. That doesn't actually block any pathfinding at all because he can jump on that ender chest. Or I would forget to shut the door in the first place, and once he's already picked a workstation out there, he's not going to pick a new one anytime soon. And also, a lot of these breeders and trading halls are built with ways that are intentionally supposed to deceive them into thinking they can pathfind through them. So make sure that there's not any workstations within those areas as well. Now that we got all these things fixed, we can remove and replace the workstation any number of times we want, and they will always take a job within the first few seconds, every single time, even at nighttime. There we go. If you're someone like me that always forgets to shut the door, what you could do is set up a dummy workstation just outside the door so you always know exactly which one he's focusing on. You can break that. He will immediately find the station right in front of him. You can put that back and just make sure to shut the door before you break this workstation again. And that's a handy way to work around that. It's worth adding that most of the effort that you put towards blocking the pathfinding for your villager won't matter a whole lot if the path that your villager takes from your breeder to your villager selector has workstations that he thinks it can path to. It won't matter if he's in a minecart. He will still think that he can pathfind to this barrel. And once he gets over into the actual villager selector, he will still think that he can pathfind to this barrel, and it won't change anything. So be careful about that as well. In my case, I will probably just move this rail underground, and that will make sure that there's no pathfinding along this rail as well. And then again, make sure while they're in their breeder that they've not already picked a workstation so that they're coming to your villager selector with a workstation that they think they can path to. So a couple other things to look out for. I actually finished recording all the footage for this guide, and then I had an idea using the same dummy workstation idea and a little bit of redstone. Some workstations are actually movable, and to the game, moving it counts as breaking it, so it'll actually force the villager to rescan. So if I break this one, then he'll rescan, he'll find this one, and then if I place one, a little bit of redstone will move that workstation, and now he will pick the lectern right away, and that'll happen over and over again every time. And yes, it's easy to get this to happen in a void world, but we've got a barrel right here. And I've tested this over many, many cycles. He will never pick the barrel as a workstation. So you can have any other workstation this close. You could even have them right there. You just can't put them in these 2 blocks right here. Those would disrupt the system. But anywhere else, you can have barrels. And then I created a couple more different designs here. If you wanted the alternate workstation to actually go down every time, then this one will always go back down. That one stays up between times. So if you wanted that, and if you wanted to get rid of this redstone, you could move this over another block like this. So note that it's very hard to do this in survival, but if you spam it, if you do this a whole bunch of times, it can get out of state. It's very difficult to do that in survival. You could probably make more complex redstone that would prevent that from happening, but I wanted to keep it nice and simple and easy. This is just really simple redstone. I might start using these. These are really nice. Look at how simple this redstone is. And this makes sure it just doesn't care where there's another workstation. You still got to cover your pathways, make sure they don't get to this point already having a workstation in mind. But as long as they have, this works every time. There's a world download down in the description. I want to thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this useful, and I wish you a good day. Bye now.